Hi everyone, Raphael Harry here, and you're listening to White Label American, a podcast where we hear stories from an immigrant or two, sometimes more. Thank you for listening and enjoy the show. Thanks so much for tuning in to White Label American. We really appreciate all the support we've been getting from our listeners, whether it's through Patreon, buying us cups of coffee, or buying our merchandise. You are not only supporting us, but you're also supporting small and veteran owned businesses. And we can't thank you enough. If you're new to the podcast or a returning listener, you can also support us on Patreon for as little as $3 a month. Or, you can do the Jeff Bezos thing and give us 100 million. We will take all of it. We got loads of bonus content, and you can help us out by sharing our podcast with your friends and on our socials and giving us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast platform. We really appreciate it. You can be a part of the show by sending your story via the contact form on whitelabelamerican.com, www.whitelabelamerican.com, or whitelabelamerican@gmail.com. Or you can leave a voice note via the website too. And for our listeners celebrating, Happy Lunar New Year to you. It's the year of the rabbit, so I believe that's plenty of good fortunes coming your way. With that being said, let's meet today's guest. She currently lives in Brooklyn, works as a product designer in the technology space, from music publishing to controlled environmental agriculture. I was going to ask about that for Patreon, but I forgot. But that's all right. We have bonus stuff on Patreon, so you see, that's another reason why you should sign up for Patreon. And she helps to use design as a tool to bring positive impact to people and our surroundings. With that being said, let's meet Yuan Wong. Did I say it right?
Yes.
Welcome to the show. We're glad to have you here. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
We are so honored to have you. And I'm so glad that our good friend Ashwin introduced us.
Yes.
And so let's see. Let's start from the very beginning. You have beautiful names. Do you mind telling us the meaning of your names? And is there a story about how you ended up with that name?
Yes. So maybe I can start a little bit about the Chinese characters. I don't know how much you know about it. Like the Yuan is my first name.
Okay.
So that's just the spelling, the pronunciation of my name. But in Chinese language, that pronunciation can correspond to many other different characters. So in writing, the Yuan can come in completely different characters and come with just completely different meanings.
Oh.
And I actually didn't really like my name. I never did. I like one more. I like names with 2 syllables. I don't like single syllable names, but that's just me. And so my name, the writing and the meaning of it is very meaning. I believe the meaning is just a very elegant and sweet and beautiful lady. And I never liked it. I find that too gendered. And there's a very strong gender role in that name.
I can relate to that because our daughter's name is, the name my mom chose for our daughter is Ebimire.
Mm-hmm.
And it translates to a good woman.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, but one name came from one side of the family, one name came from the other side of the family. So the one that came from my side of the family, that's the meaning. And I was like, but every other person seems to be like, oh, that's so beautiful. It came from your mom. And I was like, well,
Did you end up using it?
Yeah. I used it. Yeah, sometimes you just want to avoid, fighting and all that stuff. You
True.
get tired of
I
all
mean,
that
she can
stuff.
always change it.
Yeah, once she gets older,
Yeah.
I always tell her it's up. She's 4 now, and she acts like she's 40. But I'm like, yeah, whatever you decide. But I like the shortened version, AB.
Yeah, I like that.
So
I like that.
yeah, it's the shortened version goes is gender neutral.
Yeah.
So they're male ABs, they're female ABs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's, I think, to put it simply, I would much prefer a more gender neutral name.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess it was a different time.
Yeah. And your last name, what does it have a meaning?
No, last name is, we carry last name from dad's side for the most part.
Okay.
I think these days people can just do whatever they want. They choose from either of the parents.
Oh.
So last name doesn't have meaning.
Okay. All right. So, with that being said, yeah, I've known of Chinese characters, but just didn't pay attention too much to the person who was telling me about it. I think it was on Clubhouse. Yeah, there used to be a room I used to hang out in. I haven't been there in a while. I haven't been on Clubhouse for months. But there used to be, it was a nice room. The gentleman who started the room used to give one Chinese idiom and then ask anyone in the room. There used to be people from all over the world to give their version of the idiom from their part of the world, if they have a similar saying or idiom.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and there used to be, it was another way to build bridges, because it was fascinating how, because he's not even from China, but he's I think Chinese Malay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Chinese Malay, but he lives in Singapore. Either he's from Singapore, but one of the two, I'm mixing it up. But he's because he doesn't speak Mandarin, he speaks Cantonese.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he through that room, you got to hear some people will have the Mandarin version of whatever idiom was picked, and some will like, oh, this is the Korean version, and some will have the version in Swahili, and and then some will have, oh, this is saying in America now, like, oh, this is saying that I know, but there's no Nigerian saying, because there's so many languages in Nigeria, but it's usually English, and then you realize that it's mostly tied to colonialism. So it was tied to the British, because whenever I would give a Nigerian saying that I knew, somebody like UK, like, oh, I know something like that, and I'm like, yeah, but it's colonialism that made us have that connection.
That's how you know.
So yeah, but he always wrote the idioms in what were considered Chinese, and then translated them to English. Yeah. So once in a while he will talk about the characters and all that, and I'm like, oh man, yeah. I don't know if I want to retain all that information right now, but yeah.
What do you think of? Actually, that's an interesting point. I kind of want to get into it. What do you think of Clubhouse as a platform?
I think it's interesting. Yeah, interesting is just the right word to use. But at the end of the day, I think Clubhouse is a good social study.
Yeah.
Their issue be studied, because it's proof that not everybody should have the mic.
Interesting point.
Yeah, because I don't know if everybody can handle having the mic. There are people who, I never hosted a room on Clubhouse. I thought about doing it, but I was just like, I don't know if I can mentally deal with some people just coming in here to intentionally fight. I was down with having conversations. I was down with meeting people, and even when it was getting too pushy, and I was like, okay, it's getting a little bit aggressive here. You know what? I'm willing to concede. You've won. And they still be like, no, I want to crush you. I'm like, okay, I'm waving the white flag. I'm conceding.
That's really
You've won.
interesting.
But no, I want to finish crushing. I'm like, okay, then I take my leave. Bye. Then I found I met so many interesting characters. I ran into a zombie room once, and I thought they were just kidding. I thought it was a movie. And there were people from South Asia and some in the United States, and I realized that they were serious about planning for a zombie apocalypse, and I thought, oh, they put me on stage, and I was like, oh, yeah, I don't really have anything to offer here. And they all had machetes, they all had canned foods in their houses, and
Oh, the
they all
survivors.
had
Yeah.
routes that they were going. I was like, okay, good to know you all, though. I should write your names down in case it goes down. I should come find you people. But yeah, and so I found that interesting. I'm a comic book nerd, so I tried to be in some comic book rooms, and there was only one room where it was just a positive interaction. The rest were just full of toxicity, just complaint. I was like, you all enjoy the movie or not? And so I just kept bouncing and bouncing and bouncing, and then I even found Nigerian Nazis. I found all manner of people, and I was like, okay, this is becoming too much for me. I'm spending too much time here. Let me just, I'll go back to my own thing. So,
That is really
yeah,
interesting. Interesting experience.
yeah, I just felt like I'm not the right. And almost every day there was always this battle of the sexes going on. That seemed to be like the hottest thing on Clubhouse. Alpha males versus alpha females. That always pulled thousands of people into the rooms, and I was just like, "You're still fighting over this? When
This is
okay?"
completely a waste of anyone's time.
I'm like,
And
I guess good for you, but I knew one or two people who always hung out in those rooms, and when I talked to them, I'm like, you knew that it was just the addiction. They were addicted to the crowd they were pulling. So
yeah.
it felt good that, oh, a lot of people are attracted. So I have to keep doing this, right?
That's why I think what I heard early days of Clubhouse when they made that platform, the intention was to, because this happened in the early years of pandemic.
Yes.
The intention was to build the digital space that's very similar to how you walk in a room in like a physical building, like
Yes.
in real life. That was the intention. But I guess being on the internet, the somewhat being anonymous there kind of unleashed a lot of toxic stuff. Like you probably wouldn't talk in a room with a group of people around you
Well,
in real life. Maybe
yeah, but
you
I
still
think the
will.
Facebook groups already unleashed that.
True.
And once that Pandora's box had been opened, and you saw it expanding to
People are
Twitter.
just unhinged. They're gonna say anything.
Yeah, so the moment they saw Clubhouse, it was like, oh, and now I can be vocal, okay. And there was supposed to be celebrities hanging out there, and then you come insult the celebrity, even though you're still watching or you're still giving money to that celebrity, but they're human beings.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, yeah, I'm not willing to put myself up for that abuse. So
Yeah.
I thought I could connect to people. I got one good guest from there, and I was thinking I could connect to people who I'll be bringing on the show, and it just felt mentally draining, and I was just like, yeah. Actually, I got two good guests from my Clubhouse experience. I might go back one day and just play in one or two of the positive rooms that I found, but I'm not sure I'll be on the Clubhouse streets like I once used to.
Yeah, I think there's still a layer of being in that digital space somewhat justify anything one says. Like it's hard to imagine if you walk into a gathering in real life and people will just start saying unhinged things so sudden.
Yeah,
It's very unlikely.
We are well behaved.
Yeah.
When it comes to when that physical space, when we see each other, it's like, yeah, we have to watch what we say, who we say it to, and then once it's online, it's like, oh, gloves off. Here we go.
Yeah.
I can be me. It's what they call it? I've forgotten. There's a word I was thinking of, but it'll come to me. But anyway, let me not go too far on this tangent. Let me come back to you because I know some of my listeners will be like, hey, come back here. All right. So I know we've already mentioned China a few times. So can you let the audience know where you were born and what childhood was like for you?
Yes. I like that one. I was born in Chengdu, China. Chengdu is southwest part of China, so it's England. And I was born and grew up there till I think it was just past 21 when I came here. And so childhood, it's funny, I've been thinking about that. Like the city I grew up around the time, very late 80s and throughout the 90s, it was a city of about 10 million people. And it's a very big city. Now it's even bigger. And I come to think of it, it's very similar to how I live my life now in Brooklyn.
Oh.
And it was before the mega growth of a lot of parts of the world we have been experiencing. So I grew up in apartment buildings. There's like a courtyard and multiple buildings, and everybody know each other. You know your neighbors.
Yeah.
Up floor, lower floor, and you know people from the courtyard across the streets. And I went to school like 10 minutes walk away, like grade school. And I then follow the junior high and high school with just bike 15, 20 minutes. So everything is, it's reachable through either bikes or public transportation.
Mm-hmm.
And then I remember those summers going to the libraries and bookshops with my friends because it's summer vacation. You go to parks, you go get ice cream. You're hanging out just in those public space. And everything is before getting so big, cities are becoming so big and so expansive. Like you have those public space to just go out and hang out and experience that. And everything is just right there.
Yeah.
And it's in a way very similar to Brooklyn. I just walking down the streets the other day getting my eye exam. I just go there, I hit my bookstore and get my bread and then take walks and get grocery and then go home. It's so strange that after all those years and have that similar feeling again.
Wow.
And things were very local. That's the other thing. At the time, everything is, these days, most of us, we do grocery, you go to supermarkets and whatever. In fact, I go to the very local market, like a very tiny mom and pop shop. And you go to a bread place and go, whatever, you know where to get things. Mm-hmm. That's how things were. Like you go, you know your tofu person.
Yeah.
And you know your butcher. You know where you get your grains. Everything is seasonal and everything is local. And that's, a lot of those are, I think the market's still there, but for the most part, the supermarkets and just those big more
chains,
corporate existence are a bigger part of our lives now.
Fascinating. Yeah, that sounds a lot like growing up in Benin City back then. And, you know, the supermarket was something you went to like maybe once in a year or twice a year. Well, that was like a big deal if you went to a supermarket.
Yeah.
But back then we used to dream about going to supermarkets, and then now it's like, oh, you go to supermarkets all the time. It's like when I talk to people back home, that's like almost every city. It's like they have supermarkets everywhere, and all that stuff that we grew up with it's literally gone.
Yeah.
From almost every city, and it's like people aspire to go to. It's like, yeah, people sound like, what's wrong? Like, yeah, we don't have a supermarket in our city. In this city, that city is, boo, and yeah, they don't understand that those relationships that used to exist.
Yeah,
when you had those mom and pop shops, and you know, those feelings, we look down on it, and you know, back then you didn't realize. They say you don't know what you have until it's gone, right? So
yeah, there's a whole, in a way, I would say the life experience now is much more alienated that way. Like, especially when it comes to food, you go to those markets, kind of like we go to grain markets these days, that you know who made those food. Yeah. You know who grew them and then picked them and then getting them to the city, and you can get them and eat them. And that was like how those markets are. Or like your shoe fixing person. Yeah. Like you know those people, right? And who do those small fixes, and then they are there. Your life, the experience we had is through those people. You're always interacting with them. And the supermarkets come, I think I was pretty small when supermarkets start to just show up and everything. It was fascinating. of course, everything is packaged
Mm-hmm.
and it's branded,
Yeah.
and it's just a completely different visual experience.
Yeah. I'm trying to think back to first time I walked into the supermarket that I can recall, and it was to me it was like glorious. Like, oh, look at that! Yeah, that looks like I'm in the movies now.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. But you don't realize that this showing up here means the ratio of the smaller
Yeah.
stores that you could go to, and even some days where I will be sent because I was the youngest kid, so they'll send me on errands, and when I'll go to some of these smaller stores, I might not be giving the exact change. I don't know if it was intentional, but there were times when I have the list of what I'm supposed to buy, and then I give them the cash, and then the clerk or the owner of the store, usually it was the owner of the store, he knew me, and he'll be like, "Oh, that's not enough money," and I'll be like, "Oh, well, this is what the list says I should buy," and he'll be like, "Okay, this is how much you owe." Let them know, and yeah, you come back and take everything, then bring the money.
Yeah.
And you could do that, but at that age, you never realize that you can't do that with supermarkets.
Yeah.
You can't do that. Either you have the exact amount, or you're not coming.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
No credit.
no credit.
No
yeah.
tabs.
No tabs. So, with that being said, what do you consider your favorite childhood memory to be?
Oh, those New Year light shows. It's around the Lunar New Year every year, and the parks will set up all those very elaborate light installation. And
Is that like fireworks, or is it different from fireworks?
It's different than fireworks. Fireworks is also happens at the New Year's Eve, but the light show is always set up in the park. And they just set up all those very elaborate designs of light installations, and like temples and dragons and all that kind of different stuff. And it started from the people started going there like in the day, because there's also those I guess today what we call food trucks.
Yeah.
And they set up in the just other parts of the park. You just go around. You go with family, cousins, and your aunts and uncles, and then just get food and hang out. And then when it starts to get dark, and then everything just lights up. And you go them station by station.
Yeah.
I really like that.
Wow,
that was like the fun times for a kid. That's like the most fun times during the year.
Yeah, that sounds beautiful.
Yeah, and I would get those hair bands.
Yeah.
And like with the shiny hair bands, essentially.
So right now, would that be going past today, or would that be?
Yeah, I think it's around the New Year time period. Okay. The New Year is celebration. I think it's like 15 days from the first day. Actually, it's from the eve to the 15th.
Oh, wow! Man, I need to go experience that one day. That would be awesome.
Yeah, a lot of fireworks. I hated fireworks growing up. Terrified. They were so loud.
Wow.
Yeah, smoky and loud. Never liked them.
Well, and fireworks came from you guys, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so you guys got the more original ones compared to like what we had in Nigeria. But yeah, it used to be a lot of smoke that we had. I don't even know if we had the stuff that we had, if that was really good for us. But yeah, fireworks.
Yeah, people went crazy with fireworks, and
oh, they go crazy in Germany too.
Yes, I was my partner and me. We were there one New Year's Eve. I think it was 2018, and we were told that the fireworks are gonna get crazy, but we didn't expect to be that crazy. So they started around 6 and 7 o'clock. We were in Berlin, somewhere in the city, and it went on and on and on all night. At one point, there was one of those cable car bus stopped in front of we're just at the balcony and looking at the streets.
Yeah.
And stopped, and someone just threw something into the bus.
Ooh.
And then blew up in there. Things were completely out of control.
Wow. Yeah, I've spent one New Year's Eve in Germany. My wife's from Germany, and she's from the northwestern part, so much closer to the Dutch border. And New Year's Eve, I didn't realize that they just come outside and pow 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 pow
Yeah.
pow, just be shooting fireworks up, and yeah, it was a good fun time that they had over there. But I was like, yeah, well, how long is this going? Like after like 5 minutes, but I realized that my father-in-law had bought I was like, oh, all the stuff we went to the grocery store for, it was fireworks he was buying that day. So he had filled the trunk up, and he was like, "Here you go, Raphael. Here you go." I was like, "Oh man, I mean, my shoe. This taking me back to my Nigerian days when we. I was like, okay, okay. I'm done. Like after the fifth one,
Yeah.
I'm kind of like, let me go inside now.
Yeah.
Like the whole street was
Smokes.
smoke, and everybody came out. Fresh noise, yeah. Fresh noise, yeah. Fresh noise, yeah. I'm like, okay, yeah, yeah. And they're bringing beer. I'm like, gosh, yeah. It's enough, man. But at least it wasn't guns, so that's good.
Yeah, terrified of fireworks.
Yeah, I found the city. It's Wenzhou.
Wenzhou.
Wenzhou. Okay,
Yes.
yeah, that was,
Yeah, it is south.
that was south. Good, south, yeah. And is that far from Chengdu?
I don't know exactly, but I don't think it's super far.
Okay. Yeah, she's my good friend. Helped me graduate college. That's what I
Nice.
always say. Yeah, on the way up to China, but I give her more credit than myself. But yeah, awesome. Well, she's moved back to China now. But she was the first guest to be on the show, and she said it's not too far from Hong Kong.
Yeah.
But yeah. So Chengdu, is that far from Hong Kong?
It's from Hong Kong. It's I was just looking at it. 3 hours something by flight.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, not bad. Not bad. All right. So one last question on Chengdu before we move to you coming over here. Um, for someone who hasn't been to Chengdu, um, how would you describe? You've given us a picture of a city being a big city, which it is, but you know, let's say in comparison to like the American or Western world, which like how would you describe Chengdu city wise?
It's mild climate. It rains a lot. It has a season. 4 seasons, very clear. It's misty in the spring, gets pretty hot, a little humid in the summer. Autumn gets dry a little bit, gets some colors, but really mild, and just cools down a little bit and easy into winter. We don't really see snow. It's
Okay.
that kind of like today's weather will
Yeah.
be the very cold there.
Oh, so
Yeah.
it's kind of like what Texas winter was like for me before they got snow.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't really snow there. It rains. It rains pretty consistently throughout the year. Cloudy, because it's geographically it's kind of like a basin.
Mm-hmm.
It gets cloudy, and the city itself is surrounded by mountains and like rivers running across the city. And I think the closest as just vibe, I want to say maybe closest to San Francisco.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
It's really relatively tight as a city, and it's gotta mention the hot pot that's the regional food. Anyone have hot pot? I hope your audience do. Spicy food.
I've had a lot of
And-
spicy food.
Yes, Sichuan cuisine. So Chengdu
Oh,
is in the
Sichuan.
Sichuan province.
Yeah.
And so that's
Yeah,
what the
this
food is
man
like.
here, he's testifying.
We'll talk. We'll talk later. And giant pandas. Giant pandas are from there.
Oh,
Yes.
awesome. Okay.
That's the hometown of giant pandas.
Oh, okay. Well, you got my daughter signed up already.
Yes, legit.
Because she's, although she might ask about red pandas too. I'm like,
They got red pandas too in the mountains.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I'm glad giant pandas is no longer
On the endangered list.
endangered species.
Yeah, that was good. That was good. One good thing for humanity there. So
Go see pandas.
yeah. I always love watching them play. They're very playful. Like,
They're very playful. They're
Really
very
good.
cute.
yeah, they look because all the photos and the drawings they got white fur, and then you see them play. I'm like, man, you look dirty. oh, they do play a lot. And I'm like, well, I like to have that job, though, just to be playing with them. Their caretakers, those guys, kudos to them. Man. They
Yeah.
do. Yeah,
Just eating bamboo and
but
naps.
they behave like toddlers. They behave wild because I've seen when they be harassing their caretakers. It's not like a bad harassment, but it's like
Harassment.
they just be they're giving their caretakers like, we know you're bringing food for us, but we're gonna give you a tough time. Give me more food or just bring the food faster, that kind of thing. And I'm just messing with you, and it's like, oh, I'm like, yeah, they're just big kids.
Yeah.
That's what they are. Cute big kids.
Cute though.
Yeah, but I'm gonna run out of patience after like, come on, go. It's done. I'm done with y'all. But they're cute though. I love them. Yeah. So, how did you go from Chengdu to coming to the United States? What led to that decision to move?
I was in college around that time, and it was actually very coincidental. Just one day, I was in college, they have those boards, and then just was different events and notices and things happening, and I saw there was an exchange program, and I think it was actually just first year in college, and there was an exchange program with another school in the States, New Mexico State, might as well. And so I just wanted to give it a try, and I did. So I just applied for it, and it went through.
So was college in Chengdu?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So you
Yeah.
didn't want to step out of home, and then when you stepped out of home, you went whoops.
Oops, the other side.
Aye. That is.
And when you were that young, that decision making doesn't really carry as much significance in how one will feel 10, 15 years later, right? Because
Yeah.
everything is open, and you want to try something, and then if there are other conditions to make it happen, you just try it. And
That's
I did, and I moved to New Mexico, and I lived there for how long? Let me see, a little bit over 3 years.
Okay, hold on
Yeah.
before we jump into New Mexico, because we'll let me see. Yeah. Okay, so 3 years in New Mexico. Okay, well, I'll ask this question, and after that we'll go on. We'll take a quick break. So that there's, because I'm a big, I'm a nerd. So there's a multiverse. So in the multiverse, there's a possibility that it could have been Florida, or it could have been somewhere else, and you could have, ended up in a different city
Yeah.
instead of New Mexico. So there wasn't any thought like, oh, New Mexico, where's New Mexico? You hadn't been there before.
No,
You
I had no
just-
idea.
Wow.
Yeah, had no idea. Just dive right in.
I do like that personally. I do like, because I think I think that's the difference between, because I probably would have said, yeah, let me do it, and then New Mexico. Is it Mexico? It's not Mexico. Nah, I don't know. Yeah, that's the problem who I was back then. Yeah, I respect that. I respect that.
Yeah, looking back, looking back on that decision, so that's a leap of faith.
Yeah, that's a big leap of faith. Going straight. Woo. That's real. The respect there. If I had some liquor, yeah, I would have poured liquor. Like, yeah, that's, got
In
close to
fact,
that.
I think it's around the same time when I first landed there. I think I can't remember exactly what the day was, but I want to say it's January 18th or 19th. Yeah, my first time landed.
In New Mexico.
Yeah, New Mexico.
So, but anyway, New Mexico is not.
14 years ago.
That was. Oh, so your anniversary
Yeah.
just passed. Yeah. Wow. And the weather in New Mexico, there's not like they don't have like winter like here, right?
No, it's mild, but it
so-
can get pretty cold. But a type of dry cold.
Well,
It snowed there
compared to where you're
once.
coming from. So,
Oh, it's completely different. It's extremely dry, and it has sunny days, 300 days out of a year.
okay. All right. So we're gonna take a quick break now, and then when we come back, we're gonna explore New Mexico and then continue on to New York. Hi, everyone. We've made it 2 years, and who would have thought so? So let's go further and make it 3, make it 4, make it 5, make it 6. Who knows? 20. But we can't do this without your support. So join us on Patreon at patreon.com/white label American pod or linktree.com/white label American. Go there and you'll see our Patreon link, and you can join us for as low as $3. We have bonus content, we have bonus materials. There's so much juice over there that we don't release to the public. And yeah, you can contribute in making this podcast better. You can send questions, you can send your ideas, and also there's a lot of new things that are coming. The announcements are made on Patreon first because we have to, take care of people who help make this podcast possible. So you can be the one to make this podcast what you want it to be. Come join us on Patreon and make it what you like to see. Join us, make it fantastic. Keep the 5 stars coming in, keep the love coming in. Thank you for the privilege of your company. Okay, welcome back, and thank you for staying with us. So we're still in New Mexico. Upon arrival in New Mexico, coming from Chengdu, how was now? How did your adjustment go now that you're in a new environment, new weather, new climate? What were those first few days, months? What were they like for you, and how did you adjust to your new scene?
I think the first days and weeks were very exciting and new because you're in a completely different environment, and then it wasn't so good. I think the following months or years were not very good. I think part of it is just I didn't like the climate, and there's too much sound for me, and it's very dry. And I think for the most part, just a completely different world for me. And there were, I think around the time we had a few students, we're all going. And so you kind of have students around the same age and from a similar background coming in. But that was a completely different world than the world I have growing up. Like I was talking about earlier, I grew up in a place that you go to public space and hang out and then go to libraries and coffee shops, get ice creams and whatever. And New Mexico, I was in Las Cruces, so I will always fly in El Paso and then either drive or take a shuttle for 15 minutes or so and an hour and get to the town. It's a small town. It's a college town. It's New Mexico State University there. So it's a very small town, but you have to drive everywhere.
Oh, okay.
And
one of those.
yeah, it's just the college is there, the school is there, and then they just houses. And then houses. That's it.
Oh.
And you can't really get around, or there's no kind of like in suburbs we'll see. There's no third place for anyone to go and be there.
Yeah.
Like you either go to work and go home, you go to school or go home, and then that's it.
Wow.
And I couldn't really quite adjust to that way of living, and it was very, very difficult.
Yeah. Yeah, I know some people who move to areas like that. They're like, oh, I can't deal with cities. I can't deal with, and they're like, oh, I like such areas. But some of them tell me like, they're like, it's cheap. So I'm going there for, I'm saving money by moving to such areas. And I'm like, okay. And then with time, you start noticing that they're always hitting me up like, oh, man, I miss the city, man. I mean, I could get everything. I mean, I miss life in this area. I have access to it. I'm like, but I thought you said it's cheap,
Yeah, it's a vacuum. I think many years after I realized it's a vacuum.
Exactly.
That the life I had at the time and the time and space, it's like an entire vacuum. There's no there's no history, there's no context. You're just in a apartment room and with whatever was your bed and desk. and then you're in school. There's like everything is completely foreign and alien. It was a very strange feeling, and it was a very strong feeling. I think maybe some people are more adapt to that kind of change. Like some people are more sensitive to that type of change, and for me, it was very difficult.
Yeah. There's some people who that's their that's their gig, and hey, good for you. But yeah, not for everybody. So yeah, so you still got to spend 3 years there, right?
Yeah, I spent 3 years. I first finished undergrad there.
Okay.
I was studying electrical engineering, and after finished undergrad, around that time, I guess I just didn't know what I was doing. Um, can't speak for any other people, I think, but at that time, I just had no idea what I'm supposed to do. Am I about to go to graduate school like most people did at the time? End up doing the same thing, or am I gonna find a job? But I had no idea what I can possibly do. And do I stay here? Do I go somewhere else? Do I move back to China? And just have no direction and no context of what to do. So I picked the path with least resistance, which is go to graduate school, like most people did. And if you do your undergrad there, it's slightly relatively easier, straightforward to go to graduate school there. So I ended up staying for another, I want to say a year and a half or close to 2 years there after undergrad. And graduate school, I think, in a way, it was a little bit easier than undergrad, because in undergrad, there is just enormous academic pressure too. Like if I couldn't even finish undergrad here, what am I gonna do with my life? And in grad school, that level of pressure was taken off, and you get to have a little bit more options in what you can do in the field of study. But I think the overwhelming background for me was still I just didn't know what to do with my life. I didn't know what to do with my study. I didn't know what I really wanted to do, what I am capable of doing, and what do I go from here. It was only like I think it was 2 years now looking back. Like what happens next? I think that sense that feeling in 20s, early 20s is just so overwhelming.
Yeah. I can relate to that. Yeah, because I remember going to a volunteer event while I was wrapping up just before I wrapped up my bachelor's, and there were a bunch of teenagers. It was in the Bronx, and I was the only black person there. But it was a group of veterans who were mostly in the financial institutes, financial world, I think from Guggenheim, and our um, veteran service organization partnered with them. So I came from the veteran service organization, and when we got there, being the only black person and the teenagers were all black, I was the person they were all gravitating to ask questions about college, and they were like, "Yeah, so what you gonna do? How do you know what you're gonna do? And how do you know what you wanted to study?" And the truth is, I never like if I were to go back and do everything again, I don't think I would have studied business
Yeah.
administration. I only took that just it was a part of least resistance
Yeah.
for me too, and yeah, I just kind of rushed everything, but that wasn't I had no passion for it,
Yeah.
and yeah, so it was kind of what I was telling the teenagers, like, yeah, because there was one of them, like, bunch of them had like this is the path I want to be on, and I was like,
Yeah.
okay, that's good. But one of them, she said, there's something wrong with me that I don't know what I want to study or what I want to do or what I'll become. Well, I said no. Like some of us don't even know that with the older we don't know, but we're just moving with the wind.
Yeah.
So don't beat yourself up, but you can always start on a path, and then if you don't like it, change.
Yeah,
And I don't know where she is today, but I hope, I hope that was good advice that she took, because at that age, that wasn't advice that I got.
exactly. I think
Yeah.
at that age also it wasn't it, at least for me, I think at that time seems like the school was everything I had. Like I had to hold on to that. That's like the only possible way out of that existence and into something else. But then I had to really kill myself and do well, do the things that I don't really believe in, but had to do it anyway. And not knowing whether this is, actually, I think I did know that this is not the thing that I really wanted to do. This is not the thing I was really good at, but end up toughing it out anyway.
Yeah.
I think it's just around time that not knowing that you could make a decision not to do this anymore. You could do something else. It's gonna be okay one way or the other.
It's gonna be okay. I think that's the thing many of us don't. I think we don't listen to that part of ourselves. We don't tell ourselves that it's gonna be okay
Yeah.
to try something else.
Yeah. And I think the years was like what you just said. I was just rushing to somewhere I don't even know where I was going, but have that persuaded myself that there was this enormous pressure I have to keep going. Only many years later, you realize you really didn't have to. You can just make a different decision.
True. So you did your undergrad in your bachelor's was in uh electrical engineering.
Yeah.
Did you continue on that path with your your master's?
Yeah.
Okay. And so after that, you decided you were done with New Mexico. New Mexico. Yeah.
Pretty much.
And how did you pick your next destination?
I've always wanted to visit New York, and I think it was around 2011. Then a friend of me would just finally visited New York and just visited like anyone who first visited New York. And I think after that, both of us were like, yeah, well, maybe we want to try live there for a while, and we're going to try doing that. So after that, I think that's 2012, I was almost finished with school, and I didn't end up finishing it, but it's a different story. And so around the summer, I just came to New York and I stayed for a few months because I was almost done with school. I just have the paper to write. And I stayed till end of that year. Something happened in my family. And then also with my paper, my professor wouldn't let me graduate without going to a PhD program. So that kind of...
Oh, to keep you in New Mexico?
Yeah. So it certainly wasn't cool.
Yeah.
And he could have just let me graduate, but he wouldn't. So all things were happening around that time, and then I just took off. I went back to China for a little bit. That was end of 2012. So I went back and then trying to mostly just recuperate, and then with all things happen, trying to get my head together and think about what would be my next step. I think that's where for the next half year, just getting my GRE exam, trying to get into a school in New York. That's how I later ended up at NYU and come to New York.
So when you came to NYU, did you have to start all over?
Start over, yeah.
Wow. Dang.
Start over, got into the program. That's how I met Ashwin.
Wow.
At school.
Wow.
That's what I think the following those few years just had that terrible sense of rushing towards something, because I think in my head I had the sense of I'm already behind, but that's always a relative measure. What are you behind? Because we only have our one life to go for.
Wow. Okay, so let me take you back a little bit to your first arrival in New York. You remember that, right? what was that experience? What was your? Did you feel like you had any moment where you were like, "This is my welcome to New York. This is a New York shock." Like, oh, this is okay. I'm no longer in New Mexico. This is definitely a New York moment.
Yeah, it's just New York moment. It's a lot of garbage and pigeons. Yeah. It's big. It just everything feels so big. And subway feels completely overwhelmingly puzzling. And the downtown and uptown just could not figure out. But I was very, very charmed and fascinated by it. It's a much messier version of the urban environment I grew up with.
Ah, that's the thing with New York, man. Everybody who, almost everybody I've had on the podcast who lives in New York, that's like the first thing they notice is either trash,
Garbage, man,
garbage,
everywhere.
the smell,
Yeah, and
and then they
the
still love it.
steam and heat coming out from the subway.
Okay. Oh, you came during
I
winter?
came during the winter.
Oh, wow, wow. Well, it was there was no snow. Was there?
Was there snow? There wasn't snow, in fact. I think it was December ish. Wasn't really snow. It's just cold.
But it's like you do have a thing for coming to new places in the winter.
Oh, yeah. Now you mentioned it. Now you mentioned it.
I'm not sure that I am big on that. Although I've done that with a few places like Bahrain and I think Germany. My first time in Germany was yeah, both Frankfurt and the north was during the winter. But Frankfurt wasn't planned, but that was just the airport I was flying through. But yeah, it's yeah, that's yeah. I try to avoid some places during the winter, like Scandinavia. Yeah, you
True.
can't catch me there during the winter, except like Iceland. I might because they have a lot of hot springs, so it's tempting, but still no. No.
Do you think you can kind of see the true color of the place in winter? Because summer,
Hmm,
everything is nice.
that's a great question.
Everywhere is nice.
That's a great question. You know what? That you might be onto something. You might be onto something because you know back in Nigeria, every time you saw snow on the TV and movies, you're like, yeah, I wish I could be in snow. I wish I could see snow. And then you come to New York, like, oh, nobody ever showed me what it looks like after the snow is over, and then you gotta walk in the dirty,
The slush
the
and the
slush and all
dirt and
that.
snow
Oh,
pile up
ew,
for the next
oh,
3 months.
hell no, this
Yeah.
is oh no. Because oh no, 'cause,
Everyone is sad and
yeah,
grumpy.
I was like, okay, now I understand why in Finland, when it's winter season, they go into that dark depression, and then they have the mirrors put up to like brighten the place and all that. Okay, I get it now. I was like, oh, okay. I started to understand and empathize with the people over there after I moved to New York because I think I was going through that too in my own way. So yeah, but I was like, oh, all that time, watch. I want snow, and then there are people who have never been anywhere there's snow talking to me on the phone, like, hey man, I can't wait to get snow. I can't wait to experience snow. I'm like, you know what? Yes, you need to experience it.
Yes,
Yes,
yeah.
I'll just let you. Yeah, you
There's
know what?
movie snow and there's
Yeah.
life snow, real
Yeah.
life snow.
When you experience it afterwards, you go, what? Nobody told me about this. Then you're wearing the wrong shoes.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I think this is solid. Let me step on it. And, what is this? You sunk. And now your shoes, socks, pants, everything gone.
Yeah.
You have to decide: do I keep going forward or do I go home and change and then be late? And then
Yeah, just a lot of hustle and bustle and busy and
Oh, yeah.
getting to places and yeah, it's just
But it's still out. It's still my city, and I
Yeah.
love it.
there's a certain toughness to it.
It's a toughness, and it's cute.
It is.
Once you get around it, you just know
Yeah.
how cute people are, and you're like, there's this tough skin, but they're all teddy bears on the
Yeah.
So you end up. Was it because of NYU that you ended up in Brooklyn?
Uh, n- Yes, the campus was in Brooklyn, but the courses are kind of just taking us all over the place.
Okay.
Um, Actually, I don't know exactly why I ended up in Brooklyn. I think a lot of friends were staying in Brooklyn around that time, and I stayed in Brooklyn for years before I moved to Manhattan. I lived there for 5 years and moved back. I think I just knew
Well,
Manhattan. Yeah,
on
Brooklyn
this
is more
podcast, Brooklyn is the best borough.
exactly.
Without even count Staten
Yeah,
Island.
Brooklyn is my town.
Yeah, without even count. But if you're from Staten Island, we'll still accept you on Patreon and donate and all that. Buy our merch, and then we'll start to count you guys. So you know what to do, Staten Islanders, and yeah. Otherwise, I'll keep throwing bullets your way. But yeah, we don't count you guys. Yep. But yeah, and my buddy in Long Island, they're gonna be like, no, I don't count you guys too. But you're cool. You guys are cool. Two of my favorite guests are from there too. So yeah, Brooklyn all the way,
Brooklyn all the way.
all the way. That's right. So coming from electrical engineering, I'm guessing NYU was when you began to branch into your own thing.
Yeah, yeah, that was a transition phase,
Okay.
I would call it. That was when I at least started to challenge some of my thinking in early years. I came around and thinking, well, if I'm not very good at the things I'm doing, then maybe I should really try something else. But as I said, at the time, I was also trying to preserve. I did spend all those years engineering. I wanted to just do something close to it. So my program at the time was technology management. So it was the mishmash of people who all come from different contexts and background. It was a great program. It was very interesting. Met some of friends we're still friends today.
Okay.
And kind of just got to learn different things and taking design related class and did workshops and programming with Ashwin. And so kind of just start to explore other things that's happening in this tech space at the time and got into design as a consequence.
So how did you um after NYU, how did you get into your first job and what was that?
My first job, I was taking quite a bit of design related course. I did a bunch of projects, and getting first job was really just apply for a lot of places. And finally landed on my first job as a UX UI designer. And it was a company. They were mostly doing internal tools and enterprise tools. So there was a senior designer on the team. So just learning my ropes around like how product design actually works in organization. Because when you're in school, most things we learn it's a very in a vacuum. You do a project on your own. Like everyone has their pet projects you're working on. It's very much in the vacuum, but once you're working in a team, in an organization, there's all different limitations and challenges and timelines, and one needs to consider it becomes its own thing.
So when did you get into the music publishing and then controlled environmental agriculture? And are you working in both sectors or is it totally different?
Different timeline.
Okay.
So I was designer and I worked for quite a few years, and the music publishing came up when I was working at SiriusXM at the time. And this recruiter reached out to me and say, hey, are you interested? And I started talking to them, and I was interested. And also for me, music was important for me growing up. It was something I think as a kid, I'm like, I read a lot, I listen to a lot of music. I'm one of those, I don't play sports. I'm one of those kids who kind of just live in their own head. And
so when you say listen to music, what kind of music were you exposed to as a kid?
Like, I remember getting my first Walkman when I was 8 years old. 8 or 9. My
Hmm.
mom came to pick me up after I think the weekend, one of those weekend programs kids go to, and she come and pick me up, and then in the back of her bicycle, and she put the Walkman in my ear. That was like, wow, life changing.
Yeah.
Like music right in your ears on the go. And just a lot of pop music. And then around 14 and 15, I just starting explore more rock music, I suppose we could say, and just listen to all different stuff, whatever one can find from the market, and pop and rock and different stuff. And then around college, start listening more college time, just getting to know. That was also the beginning of internet. You start chatting with people, you get to know
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
friends, and that really expand how one gets to learn about new type of music, like from your friends
Yeah.
say, yeah, check this out,
Mm-hmm.
or from someone else, well, this is really good, and you start just building that the your own preferences.
Hmm.
And I still find even today that's how one really gets to connect with music they can connect with is from people you know.
Yeah. Almost all the guests have given me a bunch of artists that I've added to my playlist. So my playlist is always expanding on Spotify, and yeah, I should share it one day with the audience, and y'all can see how I have hours upon hours of music. But I'm still in. Before I come back to the music publishing, uh, I will go back to your childhood with the music. Uh, so you were listening to pop,
Yeah, a lot of
and
pop around the time,
but
and
was it only music from like China, or pop from China, or was it like global?
kind of all over the place. Japanese pop was really big
Hmm.
around the time I was growing up, and Chinese
Because
pop.
you know why I'm asking
Yeah.
with the Communist Party, I thought like there was like a what's the word I'm looking for, like a restriction on the amount of American music coming
Oh,
into
you mean Western
China. Yeah,
influence?
yeah. So I wasn't sure if you were getting y'all were
Yeah,
exposed to a lot of
I think
uh,
around.
music from America.
Yeah, for sure. But for me personally,
Mm-hmm.
I grew up with mostly British pop.
Okay.
Interestingly, like around the time,
Yeah,
y-
I'll add it to
yeah,
yeah.
it's a lot of British pop. Looking back,
Hmm.
and I remember so clearly listening to David Bowie at 16 years old, and Six Pistols, and random stuff like what one could find from your CD store.
Wow. So and those are just sold openly.
I think those were not sold openly. Those were like the people, they will set up their little booth,
Yeah.
like just on the streets, and go
Oh,
pick it
okay. Yeah,
out.
they do that in Nigeria.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They do have like the legitimate store you can go. They
Mm-hmm.
still have for sure Western and Japanese and other selections in the store.
Okay.
Just different channels.
Okay. Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
I was going to. Okay. So back to the music publishing before controlled before agriculture. Um so you're in the music publishing, and your love for music made that easier for you to
Yeah,
accept that gig, right?
that was I think that was a really important experience for me in terms of both personally and professionally. It's
Mm.
something that I feel very close to. I've always wanted to be in that space,
Yeah.
and I did. And met some very good coworkers and very good people. And it was a space most people are very, very self-selected. They're doing this because they're either themselves the musicians or they care about music.
Mm.
And so it's a different energy.
So how do you feel like the music publishing, working in music publishing, helped you embrace your creativity as a person?
Interesting question. Creativity, you mean Creativity as in design as a profession, or creativity just more general?
In any way you define it.
Okay.
I'll leave that up to you.
Okay. I think in that space, the work I was doing with a team, it was like we were working on a tool internally, trying to streamline the processes. It was a good team to work with. So everyone was very into it
Mm-hmm.
and genuinely, let's really try to think this through how we solve it. And then there was a lot of, I just did a lot of design, did a lot of exploration. I think at the end of the day, that's how I perceive design as what it is. You gotta be able to explore. You gotta be able to try so many different options and then to figure out what will work with the people you're working with. That's at the end of the day what it is. The technical aspects of it, you design something, you design an object, you design an interface. That technical aspect in terms of interface design, the how you use certain components, how you move this thing from one place to the other, how you play with typography and color. That itself to me is like just like language. You gotta be able to have certain you gotta know the grammar, you gotta know the vocabulary to be able to communicate oneself.
Mm-hmm.
That's just how it manifests. But at the end of the day is there's all different set of business rules and how people the copyright itself and different objects, and then how operation is run within organization, and then at the end of the day is to be able to make sense all of that and manifest through the interface. I think I was given the opportunity to be really able to take on a very big project and working with people and just run with people, really just work with people who will be using those tools. And I think that was a challenge, I think, at the beginning of it. I wasn't sure if I could pull that off, and we did. And then that felt good. That was professionally, I think that really started to change for me. I mean, everyone has some imposter syndrome one way or the other,
Yeah.
but kind of confirms that, I can do this. I can do this pretty well.
And then you will now move into a different sector down the line. And so, what led to you moving into the controlled environmental agricultural space?
So at the time, I was there for about 2.5 years, and we had a good run with the product I was working. And someone else from where I'm working now reached out. And so I started chatting, and I was very interested. I was very, very interested in working with something that's so close to us, working with food.
Mm.
And I think there is a certain level of feeling very grounded that way.
Oh, and I should have asked this question first. So, when we say controlled environmental agriculture, to the layman, what will you? How would you define that?
Um, we're okay to say just names, right? On the show.
Names as
Yeah,
in.
company, like where I work and all that kind of
Oh,
stuff.
that's up to you. If
Okay.
you do not want to, that's fine.
Yeah, it's cool. It's our traditional agriculture. Very traditionally, you basically have to grow stuff according to what the weather can give you.
Yes.
And in more mild climate, you can grow more stuff. In a harsh climate, that's very limited. You can grow, but these days we can use technology to control the environment that we have indoors. So I work in a company called Bowery Farming. That it's a local company, and that it's vertical farming. So you can grow like vertically into the space as well.
Oh.
Yeah. So you can grow
I've seen
much
some
more
of that.
stuff within the space with much smaller space.
Yeah, yeah, and that comes in handy for some. I've seen. I don't. I'm not sure if it's your company, but I've seen some reports like on Deutsche Welle, the German channel, covering controlled environmental agriculture, growing in controlled spaces in like projects to transfer some of these experiments to some climates in some
Yeah.
African countries, like those that like in the desert areas and something like with the arid conditions where like Namibia, some places where due to historical factors they can't really grow produce right now. So there's stuff like this that they're looking at,
Yeah.
and because it's online, the most popular thing you see is oh, look at Israel has good agriculture. You just import soil from somewhere, and that's people don't really know the logistics of all that, and then they forget that it's not only one option that's available.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's why what you do is important. But I just have to make sure you broke it down so everybody is aware of it, and they don't just say, Raf, you let your guests just talk without telling us. I'm like, okay. Now you know. Now you know. So we all know, and we all can move along. So I have to come back to music
Yes.
because we love music on this podcast, and every guest who's on this show is considered a dancer. If you say you don't dance, then we stop recording and kick you off the recording. So
Oh, I think I
it's
gotta go.
it's too late. Nah, it's too late. You're already a dancer. We already accept you. So um, since you worked in music publishing,
Yeah.
and so you already have helped to improve the quality of listening experiences for listeners. So when it comes to music, your own personal taste in music, you know we need you to give us three artists that can keep you dancing for at least an hour. Now we're not going to make a video of you dancing, don't worry about that, but we just need you to give us at least three artists that can keep you dancing. Now there's a caveat: you can't name the most popular names because a lot of people have been on the podcast. We have over 140 episodes. So, yes, we forgot to mention that in the beginning. So, the most popular names were being dropped. And I was like, okay, you know what? There are certain names being repeated. The other people out there, we need to discover artists. So, you can give us artists that, come from your part of China, or you can give us artists from New Mexico. If you still want to give New Mexico love, that's up to you. Yeah, so I'll throw it in your corner, and so you can give us at least three artists that can keep you dancing
Keep
for an hour. So
dancing.
it's not limited to any brand, any genre of music. It's your choice, but
Dance music, huh?
and that's how my playlist gets to keep growing.
Okay, that's a really good one. Dance music. That is.
And it's up to you what you define as dance music. By the way, it doesn't have to be what I define as dance music.
Okay, I'm gonna just throw it out there anyway.
All right.
I think you're gonna have to throw New Order into the dance music. New Order.
That's the artist.
Yeah, New
Okay.
Order, the band.
All right, band.
Okay.
And where are they from?
British.
Oh, British. Okay,
They're
we're going
from
British. All
yes, the
All right.
reincarnation of Joy Division.
All right.
And I think there's on top. Yeah, it's on top of my list. Let's see. I have to throw David Bowie there. Just gotta listen to him a lot. Too big of a name?
It's quite popular, so that would be considered cheating.
Okay.
It's the lunar year, new lunar year, so we don't want to start the year on the wrong foot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, then Pulp then. Pulp is a good one to dance to. Pulp. Also, they're from Manchester. Also British pop.
Maybe I have to add another rule now. Like, cannot be two from the UK.
I know, I grew up with Brit pop.
So it's called pulp?
Pulp, yes.
Okay. So is there none from China? Because I don't think I have.
From the internet. I think around the time, everyone is
okay. So
listening to things
I'm
on
getting the vibe
internet.
that you're an old head when it comes to music.
I'm an old head.
Okay.
For sure.
All right.
Yes.
All right. We'll let you get away with that.
Okay.
All right. So who's the third one that you got?
Let's see if I can find someone new.
Oh, okay. You want to give us somebody new? We'll take new.
Let's see.
And it can be local also.
Local, huh?
Hmm.
Oh, for all the kids, I guess let's do the Strokes.
The Strokes. I like
Yeah,
that name.
the Strokes. They're local,
Hmm.
relatively new.
Now I'm surprised that's not British.
They're not British.
Usually, I think that's the name I would have associated with British. But yeah, the Strokes. Because growing up, that's the type of names that I've.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're fun.
yeah. Yeah. You better be fun if you have a name like that. Because I'll be the guy booing you like you suck, boo. Why you gonna call yourself the Strokes? And you don't make good music. You better know how to make good music. So, all right. So thank you for that. And I think I got
I
three
say that's a
bands.
fine combo.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's three new bands to add to my playlist. Yeah, I'll just change the playlist title to White Label American Playlist on Spotify so people can find it and listen. And it will be like, man, this list is wild. It got music from everywhere, everywhere. So, yeah. So, um, back to the professional side of things, and then we'll end up with with another fun question. So, um, let me see. Two quick questions on the professional side of things. Um, all right, I got it. One thing that you gave me in your bio, well, it's not really tied to your. I don't know if it's tied to your job, but there was something that you gave me in your bio that I should have. I forgot to ask this for the Patreon side. So everybody, the freeloaders are going to get this one. So you mentioned meaningful engagement on the internet,
Yes.
and I know earlier on we had touched on this, but just for a few, just briefly, what does meaningful engagement on the internet look like to you?
That's what I'm trying to figure out. That's my pet projects.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Don't keep that for part two. All right, so
All right.
you're gonna come back and yeah, we're not. I'm not gonna let you get that tea being spilled. Nope, nope, no, nope, nope, no. And Ashwin had said I should ask you about artwork, about
Okay.
your art projects, and so apparently you're an artist, and that's kind of why I was also asking about the music publishing, like your creative side. That's where I was kind of dancing into it.
Yeah.
So, but you went with the professional side of it, so I was like, oh, okay, maybe I'll come back. I'll mention Ashwin officially. So, how do you pick your art projects? And do you have a preference for, you do drawings, right?
Yeah. Painting, drawing.
Drawing
Yeah.
paintings. So, do you have a preference? Do you do objects, people, well, natural bodies, or yeah? What do you do?
Mostly people. I'm most interested in people.
Oh,
And I started doing both portraits and figures quite a few years ago.
okay.
And in fact, I started drawing very early when I was 3. My mom sent me to the drawing classes, and so that was very early memory. I've always had something going,
Wow.
like in terms of just some visual projects. And I didn't really pick it up anything until 5-6 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I started just went to classes. I went to those figure drawing and portrait drawing, and I realized, oh, this is fun stuff. Like, I'm really getting into it. And then my teacher at the time, and then started encouraging me to should try painting. It's just try a different medium.
Yeah.
That just try it. You might like it or not. And then just start painting. I got some acrylics and start painting, and then it was just life changing in a sense. Like, you change from one medium to the other, and then you're just facing all of those different possibilities now, and then start to really understand it's about the looking. It's you're looking at the objects or looking at the people, especially when you're painting people. Like, you're really looking at them, observing them.
So do you paint people like what's it called? How do you call? Is it like still models posing for you, or you just stand at the corner, just watch people walking by, and you can just paint them, or how does that work for you?
When I used to go to classes, it's models.
Okay.
So they model and then you observe them and then you try to communicate what you see and how you feel. And then I also just sit in a park or in a subway, I also sketch people.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Starting
So-
to do something also like from photos and just other photos and there are moments that memories I wanted to communicate and I also
Yeah.
started putting them on paper
I
too.
love that. Communicate. Yeah. Yeah, because that's true. That's a communication.
Yeah.
That's communicating too. So, yeah. Do you display your works anywhere?
Nah, I just paint at home and then share them with some friends and then yeah, that's it.
Okay, that's fine. So, final thing on the professional side, is there any advice that you would like to give to our listeners who are aspiring to work in the tech industry
Ooh,
or
that's a tough
agricultural
one.
industry?
Yeah, that's a tough one, given what's been happening these days.
Yeah. There's been a lot of, like 55,000 firings. But
Yeah. I want to say whatever we do, whatever we choose to do, it's to really look into and investigate into our motivations. Like is the thing I'm about to do have some type of, like, how do you feel about that? Like, at the end of the day, do you feel good about what we're doing? It's, especially in tech, I think there's more options. And then there's also, I think it's a space that we should really asking ourselves, am I doing the right thing?
yep, that's that transcends tech and it transcends
Yeah.
it goes into everything. Do you feel good about what you're doing?
Yeah. It's like what is really what's motivating me of doing it. I think it's perfectly okay that it's perfectly okay that we're doing this because we're gonna pay our bills. But at least try asking oneself that.
Yep. So, final fun question before officially wrapping up. You live in New York, Brooklyn, come from a place that has fantastic cuisine, but New York's also known for its cuisine. Plenty of it. So, when it comes to food, in fact, I have to split it two ways. So, first thing first, let's say I arrive in Chengdu today. I land in Chengdu today. What's the cuisine? What's the go-to, the must-have that I need to have for it to be official that I've been to Chengdu?
Hot pot for sure.
Hot pot. Okay.
Yeah, gotta have hot
I had a
pot.
feeling you were going to say that. So,
Yeah.
okay. All right. So, all right. Hot pot. So that's out of the way. So now.
And have it the local way.
Yeah, the local way.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So you arrive in Chengdu, you got to do hot pot there. So back to Brooklyn, you're here, you have access to food from almost everywhere in the world, if not everywhere in the world. What is your favorite cuisine?
Ooh, cuisine, huh? It's a big word.
It doesn't have to be the one you eat every day or every week, but it's just like when you have this, there's always a smile on your face.
Well, I mean, there's certainly pizza place in town that's like definitely indulgence. And I like Mediterranean food quite a bit. And
Well, from pizza to vegetarian, that's
no, Mediterranean.
Oh,
Mediterranean food.
Okay.
I like them quite a bit.
I was about to say that's about to
Yeah.
be somebody writing in, and I'd have just been like, you know what? Let me I'll just
Good
give you.
slice of pizza is
Okay, you're a real New Yorker then. Yeah. They can't say you're a transplant anymore. Like, hey, she loves pizza, man. And which place has the best pizza?
in my opinion,
No, which city?
Big City, New York.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you were gonna say Boston. It was like, oh, somebody.
No,
writing.
obviously.
Cancel this guy. No,
Yeah,
no, it's just
obviously.
messing. No. No. That was just a 3 question. I don't do 3 questions, but that was just one of them. But yeah, pizza, New York. I love pizza only when it's free, though. That's me. I don't really have a preference for pizza in New York, like a place that I go to. But if it's bad, I would know it's bad. Yeah, even if it's free.
Yeah, I'll give you some names that after this.
All
yeah.
right. So, final question. Although I feel like you have already said something along that line, it's your freestyle moment. What would you like to leave the audience with? Just anything from your heart. Go.
I mean, I want to say kind of take it easy. Like, take it easy and then care for others, care for people you care for. And really think about what you're doing and the impact on other people. That's all we can do, really. And try to think beyond our just beyond ourselves and look external a little bit like what you're doing now.
Hmm.
And to look outwards and see what other people are doing and then try to emphasize with them. If we can all do a little bit of that, I think we'll be in a much better place.
Yep, we will be. So, yeah, but I think humanity will love too much chaos. But hopefully, we'll get there.
Yeah, hopefully.
Hopefully. All right. So I can't thank you enough for coming on the show. As my people say, umbana. And how do you guys say thank you?
谢谢.
Sheshe. Yeah. Well, Wembe taught me that. Yeah. Wembe, forgive me. It's been a long time. It's been over 2 years. I'll send her a message, actually. So, do you have anything you would like to plug in?
Plugging, huh? Oh, not at the moment.
All right.
Yeah.
If you change your mind before you can send me
Maybe throw in the
and-
links.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll add the links. All righty. So thank you, everybody, for listening. Appreciate you all. Don't forget, if you have an Android phone, download our app, give us 5-star reviews, and share with your friends. Don't keep it to yourself. It's a new year. Make that your New Year's, what do you call it again? Yeah, resolution. Well, hey, Patreon. Make our Patreon your New Year's resolution because, yeah, there's a whole lot of great things coming, big announcements coming up. So thank you for the privilege of your company. See you at the next episode. Thanks for listening to White Label American. If you enjoy the show, we'll appreciate if you rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcast from. If you have any questions, comments, or have someone who will be a good guest on the show, or you want to be on the show, send us a message at whitelabelamerican@gmail.com. And make sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at White Label American. Thank you for your support.